Hey guys, welcome back. Joe here again from ScaleFreak.com, coming to bring you the first part of the build video for the Sakura D4 rear-wheel drive kit. In this video, we go through bag one, which is the chassis, the arms, and how to get it all mounted together. So check out the video, stay tuned to see just how easy this is. All right, first let's get the box opened up. We're gonna do bag one today, so let's locate bag one. 8, 6, 4, 3, there it is, on the bottom, bag one. Better grab the instructions as well. Pull those things out. I'm gonna set that bad boy on the floor. Now, I did mention before in a previous, as long as you got the right tools, this job becomes much easier. For bag one, I do suggest a really nice, sharp hobby knife. I also suggest you get a set of hobby scissors. You're gonna need a 1.5, a 2 mil, and if you can get yourself a 2.5, cool. You don't need it, but if you've got it, it helps. And of course, one of these bad boys is gonna make a difference with the setup. You can play with your setup later. If you don't have one, you can do it by eyeball and then go from there. But of course, if you do have one, it helps a lot to start. So first, let's get the bag open. In this bag, we're going to do chassis, front, and rear arms, getting them mounted onto the kit itself. Don't keep your garbage laying around, there's really no point. A couple more things I guess you could say that help for a good set of tools. Magnetic pit mat and magnetic parts trays. I've already found myself a couple times having to chase a couple parts. Remember guys, I have already built this kit once for the Subaru/Mustang kit that you guys have seen so far. So in a scale of 1 to 10 on how difficult this kit is to build, I give this thing about a 5. It's not difficult at all for an experienced builder, and even for a new person, it should not be a difficult kit to build. These instructions, extremely clear, very, very easy to get along with. But you know what? Let's first get started with the bag itself. So in here, plastic parts as the stock kit coming from the factory. These parts are all going to be plastic. Well, most of the parts are going to be plastic. I do recommend going through and kind of snipping this stuff all off the flashing before you even get started. You're going to need this stuff all later anyway, and this isn't a huge step. The reason I like the hobby scissors, well, I mean, I guess these ones here you can just break off. But with some of the plastics that are softer, I like to use the hobby scissors to clear stuff away from the flashing, because it's just really easy to do. Let me see, this one is the 0, good. This one is the 30, which I need. I need these 4 guys here. I'm just setting some stuff off to the side. Of course, I will need these guys here as well. So 1, front, rear, 2 arms there, and then of course all the hardware to put everything together. Now, one of the things I do recommend with each part is take the time to go through and then just trim off some of the extra flashing. So as you take it off, you know, be very careful. Again, like I said, a nice sharp hobby knife is a good thing to have. I've even seen some people that go so far as to get out some sandpaper and just make sure that this stuff is all exactly smooth. I don't think it's really needed to go that far, but you know, your opinion, or your prerogative, I guess you could say. You can do with whatever you like. It is your kit. Just please remember, guys, that when you are kind of doing this, please be safe. A sharp hobby knife, it's like a scalpel, and very quickly you will bleed all over your pit space, and nobody wants to see that, especially on video. I've filleted enough fingers. I've learned enough lessons for you. What I do is like a paring knife. Just hold my thumb and then just kind of bring myself forward. That way I never get to the point that I could slash my thumb. When you are shaving off all the extra trimming though, please remember parts like this one here and this one here have some pilot holes on it. Those are supposed to be there. Please do not trim those off. You'll actually need those to help this thing stay put in the chassis correctly, because those guys are only held on by 2 screws. So as you're going through the parts, sometimes it makes sense just to kind of separate some stuff. You know, this will be the front, this will be the rear, so you're going to need that, and that, and that, and that. And, you know, when you're going through, you can basically, that's why I like these little spaces here, so you can say, okay, here's my front, here's my back, here's my hardware, blah, blah, blah. Get it all set up the way that you like it. Now also, you'll notice on the chassis itself, I'll tell you, I made the mistake once where I actually put the front on the rear and the rear on the front. If you look here, look on the back, the 2 holes is for the rear, the 3 holes is for the front. And of course, where the countersunk are, that is the bottom. Now this is a nice carbon fiber piece. Please remember, when you're screwing everything into the system, this thing will flex and what's called tweak. So something I learned from the on-road racing is when you build the kit and you crank it all down really early in the process, you may get what's called tweak, where later on when you go put it together, the top plate won't fit correctly because the bottom part of the chassis is actually twisted. So just kind of as of a bit of a, so what I'm looking for here, a bit of a heads up or a bit of a build tip is when you're screwing all the screws into the bottom of this guy, don't worry about cranking them all down right now. Leave them snug. You know, remember, you're screwing plastic, you're screwing metal into plastic for the first time, which creates a lot of heat and can strip the plastic. But at the same time, if you crank them down in a weird way, you will create tweak in the board, and then a lot of stuff will not fit correctly later. So just snug them at first, and then later down the road, like the step where you put the whole top plate on, then you can come back to it and tighten everything down. But for now, let's build some arms. So I'm just gonna kind of set that out of the way for a second. We don't need that just yet. Now, this one here is a rear wheel drive kit. So of course, the arms for the front are a little bit different from the arms on the rear. Actually, they flip like this. The fronts go together a little bit different than anything you'll see in a race kit or a short course kit or any other kit not built to be a rear-wheel drive drift machine that gets like ridiculous angles on steering. So they're really, really skinny on how they go together. Now, the way that these arms go together, of course, you've got the kind of capture setup like that, and then you're going to have this. Let me see, that's the rear, that's the front, and then these guys are, let me see, they're all labeled, by the way. If you take a look on when you pull the parts off, they're all labeled. Like this is rear-wheel drive front left. This one is rear-wheel drive front right, and it actually just says FRR, so front, right, rear, and then so on. When you're looking in the instructions, it will actually make it very clear as to how it's supposed to be as well. You can actually take a look exactly where it's supposed to be. When you're putting them all, you'll notice that the arms are all bent weird, like the hinge pins don't go in exactly straight. It's supposed to be like that. That's the purpose of making sure you have the right parts. So when you go through the instructions, pay close attention to things like these sidebars, where it actually shows you that, say, for the rear, it's supposed to be the suspension mount RR30, which you look on the top, and it actually says RR30, so that's how you can tell that it's going to be the correct one. And yeah, pay attention to that stuff, because later on, it may not seem like the kit is going together correctly, but it is. So first, let's get started with the front arms. We're going to grab the 1.5. Now, you'll notice there's a bunch of grub screws, little tiny grub screws. Oh, it's in my ring. Here you go. Little tiny grub screws. Now, first, these are droop screws. These are also suspension screws. So first, what droop screws are, they go into the arm itself. This is how you can set how much down travel your arm is going to take against the chassis. So when you screw this thing through, oh, caution guys, don't put your finger on the bottom of that screw as you're screwing it through. It will get quite, let's call it spicy, and it will heat up quite a bit and burn you. And pull that out. Now, in the instructions, you want to be careful. It says to make this little guy pop out the bottom of that arm 3.25 millimeters. So you're going to grab this little guy here, crank it out to 3.25. By the way, I do always recommend a digital one. I love them. And if you check here in Canada, Canadian Tire sells these things a couple times a year for, I think, 10 bucks. So it makes sense. Now, of course, what you're going to do is hold the arm. When you set this to what you want it, don't worry about this end. That's what this end is for. This is to check the depth of the pitch or of the screw. So I still have a lot way to go. A little bit more. And then check it again. What you're basically doing with this is just making sure that the head of the screw puts you flush with, see if you can see it up here. Maybe not. Can't figure out the angle it will work best. You'll figure this tool out. Okay, so you're going to set in the droop screw on each side. That's fine. But then you also need to put the one in the front that the suspension is eventually going to connect to. So you'll see in the front, there are 3 holes. The instructions call for the innermost hole, and it calls for it to keep it out 4 millimeters. Now, whatever, I don't need to know that exact. I just kind of put it to where I think it is. And then what you're going to do is you're going to use one of these little bad boys here, put it on to the end. Now you can hand tighten this one down, but this is where, like I said, if you have a 2.5 mil, just do this. Crank, done. So that will be on there nice and snug. Now, the other part is you're going to grab one of the longer screws that's in here. Where are you, longer screws? And the way that this front end goes together is a little bit different. Now again, this is like a capture ball setup, and that's your arm. So what you do is stick this in here. It's quite snug, so it's going to need some force. There you go. And do your best to make the mold line up straight. It's a little difficult to get it to set once it's in there, but when you're jamming it in there for the first time, it can make a bit of a difference. So then grab your screw, grab your 2 mil, and that's literally just going into the back of the arm here and screwing under the inside. Just screw this in till it's snug. This thing's really not going anywhere. There you go, because remember, that's so tight fit on the inside, plus you've got that screw in there. It would take a long time and a lot of vibration on the thing to make it back out. So that is how one front arm is done. Now for the rear arms, same setup, right? You're going to grab one of these grub screws, wherever I just threw that one. There it is. Going to grab one of these grub screws, and it is going to go into where the droop setting is going to be. And of course, for this one here, you're looking at 1.85 millimeters. For all of you non-metric people out there, I don't know what the conversion is. Find a conversion calculator. So there, that's in there. And again, we're going to adjust this little guy here down to 1.85. Close is okay for me on this because it's all something that's going to be adjusted later once I start to do the setup anyway. When I say when I do the setup, I mean when I give this to somebody else to do the setup, because I still have not yet learned how to properly set up a drift car. I'm still learning, and I hope that you guys will learn with me. So okay, we got that guy set up there. So now that droop screw set in. And of course, we are going to mount in where the suspension is going to go. This one has, again, 3 holes on the backside. The instructions call for the center hole, and they call for it to stick out 4 millimeters. Eyeball it. Throw on your what the suspension is eventually going to connect to. And again, if you have your 2.5, just give it a snug, just to lock it down. And that is that back arm. Sorry, that is that back arm. So give me 1 second. I'm going to go through and just finish the other side. No need for you to watch that one. You just saw how I did this. Give me 1 moment. With all 4 arms built, you can see, again, this is how it's all going to set up once it goes on the chassis. But now it's actually time to put these parts on the chassis. Now, each arm is going to have a hinge pin. Ta-da! And each arm is also going to have a couple spacers, these little tiny pinkish spacers that come with it. One goes on the front side of the arm, one goes on the back side of the arm. Now how this is going to mount onto the chassis itself is you are going to have the front going into kind of the main, I don't know, some people call them bulkheads, some people call them hinge pin carriers, I call them hinge pin carriers. So in like that, ta-da, and of course the back is going to go like that, ta-da, and they are going to be locked into the kit itself or into the chassis itself. Now again, this is where it's important to remember 3 holes is the front, 2 holes is the back, because again, this is where a mistake can be made quite easily, and next thing you know, you're driving backwards. So for this one here, what you're going to be doing is setting up the front section to make it work exactly how you want it to. Now again, read the tops of the parts to make sure that you get the correct ones. The instructions call for the front to have an FF0, which is this one. And then of course, they are coded on the back RFL, so rear wheel drive, front left. So what I'm going to do is just grab these little tiny screws here. I'm going to take this off. And first, These little guys here, again, have the pilot holes. So they're really, really easy to stick on like that, flip it over, and start the screw. Now, in this step, you will notice in the instructions that there are little shims that are going to go underneath these. Now, the purpose of those is to make sure that it's level on the chassis. You can actually make a lot of adjustment that I don't even want to claim that I fully understand the dynamics behind it. I understand the basic principle on how to adjust the angle of the suspension and the hinge pins, but I am not qualified to explain the exact intricacies of how it works. So I'm just going to tell you, build it like the instructions say. But basically you can kick up and kick down these arms to give them a different way it's done. So of course there's that one on there, you can see, and I've not tightened it down much at all because you need to take this little metal shim that comes with it and slide it under here. Now you'll know it goes in because it's going to put itself around the pilot holes and around the screws, and then just snug it down. Like I said, guys, just snug it for now. Just snug. Do not crank these suckers down. There's no need to do that just yet. Wait till later when the top plate goes on, and after that's done. So boom, I've got the first one on there. Now, of course, the arms, whoops, slide that into there. And then, of course, look for RFL, so rear wheel drive, front left. Slap that puppy on there, and then line it up. Of course, there's going to be 2 holes per each. Now, in some cases, this is going to need a little bit of a thumb power to get it into place. Because remember, these arms actually do go on a bit of an angle. So once you get the first in there, that's fine. You can let go with the thumb. Whoops, almost dropped the second one. Get the second screw in there. Snug it down a little bit. Don't crank these down too much because, again, you've got a shim for this one too. And this is actually neat how these ones go on. Just kind of the way they slide in. Just boop, there it goes. Flip it over. And then push it down. And then again, snug these screws down like that. And then that is how that arm goes on. See? And then you just do the same to the other side. Now it's the exact same thing for the rear as well, except for this one here, you put the pilot hole on the back, throw the shim in, same setup, right? Put this bad boy on here, make sure the spacer's on the front and the rear, and put that on like that. So give me 1 second, I want to get all of this stuff put on. It's the exact same process that I did with this arm, so there's no need to show you that. 1 second. So that's it. In no time at all, I'm able to get the fronts built and mounted, the rears built and mounted. As you can see here, quite simple, man. Everything goes in here, no problem. It's like 2, 4, 6, 12, 13, 14 screws, and 2, 4, 6, 8 grub screws. It's really about it. It needs next to no tools to get it done. So remember, guys, I don't crank these things right down at first just to avoid tweak later in the chassis. But that's it. That's how easy it is to get the arms built on this rear-wheel drive drift kit. So that's it for this video, guys. The next one in the series will feature all the stuff that is in bag 2, which is going into the bulkheads and where the motor mounts in. So guys, thanks for watching this one. Please remember to head over to RC Mart to go check out the deals that you can get on this thing. And share, like, comment, and subscribe. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Have a great day.